What's happening, hobby people? My name is Jacob from the Dry Paint Pot, and I've been making videos for 31 weeks straight now. And it is the week before Thanksgiving, and I thought to myself, maybe I'll take a break. But hell no, I'm not going to do you guys like that. So this week, I'm teaching you how to paint a Stygies Ranger. So stick around. Stygies VIII, also known as the Ever-Staring Cyclops, is an Imperial Forge world of the Adeptus Mechanicus that's known for its sneaky curiosity of Xenos tech. Now, this forge is so captivated by Xenos tech that they literally wage war on Xenos races, not to kill them, but to just capture them and study their technology and torture them and do whatever the hell they do with them. I couldn't even imagine. Who knows? So obviously they've gotten themselves into a ton of trouble with the Inquisition, specifically the Ordo Xenos, and the Death Watch are constantly there kicking their asses on a day-to-day. So back in the day, I was looking for some cheap infantry to help support my Death Watch, because being at around 30 and 40 points a model, I was getting blown off the table before I could even make it to an objective. And with their black, red, and gold color scheme and involvement with the Death Watch, I figured Stygies was it for me. Admech units painted in the Stygies VIII color scheme complements an inquisitorial force very well, so if you're building an Inquisition kill team or an Inquisition army for some god-awful reason, you might want to consider them. Also, their rules are pretty solid. Any unit that's over 12 inches away is a -1 to hit them, so it helps keep them alive because their save is god-awful. So let's talk about painting these brave little toasters. After a bit of trial and error, I found a technique that looks both very sharp on the table, but takes little to no time to achieve. But here's the thing, Admech is not my only army. I have such a big backlog of models that I cannot spend all day painting these things up. And on top of that, if you want a decent Admech force, you're gonna have a bit of models. I mean, it's almost like painting guard. You don't show up to play guard with like 10 guardsmen. You need ranks and ranks of those bad boys. So with that, I can't spend forever on one model if I have like 40 more to paint. So while our final product is gonna be tabletop ready, you can definitely go above and beyond and really expand these steps and make this thing look amazing. So feel free to deviate from this tutorial a bit and make your models look as good as you want them to be. Now let's quit talking and paint up some Stygies. We first want to start things off by priming our models black and then go over our primer with black paint. The reason for this is because no two black paints are exactly the same, so if you need to touch up the cloak, which takes up a majority of the model, your black paint is going to look out of place. Also, primer sometimes has a peculiar finish to it, and you don't want that to stand out on your model. For primer, I use Rust-Oleum 2-in-1 paint and primer, and for the black base coat, I use Abaddon Black by Citadel Paint. Once everything is painted and primed, we can next move on to painting the pants. Celestia Gray is a great base coat to start with because you can either wash it and leave it as is for a dark and dirty look, or you can highlight your way up to white to really exaggerate things and make it pop. It's good to start with the pants because they're surrounded by the Stygies black cape, and it's very easy to get some of your gray paint on the cape. If you do, don't worry, just touch up the cape with some Abaddon Black and you're good to go. Now, I'd like to explain why I'm moving on to the armor before I finish the pants. You see, I'm usually batch painting my Stygies just as I do my guardsmen, so I follow a very specific routine. I first base coat, and then I wash, and then I finish things up with an optional highlight. Now, this routine allows me to work fast, make mistakes, and clean them up along the way. For instance, we're going to paint the armor in a base coat of corn red. If we get any of the red on the gray pants, it's no big deal. We just cover up the spot in Celestia Gray, and we're all set. Now pretend that you just got finished doing all of these fancy highlights and blends, and then you accidentally get red paint on it. Yeah, that sucks. It's much harder to try and replicate blends than it is to just touch up a spot with a base color. With the armor complete, We can now move on to painting the metal body and accessories. To really add a bit of variety to this model, I like to paint the face, belt, legs, and hands in a darker silver like Leadbelcher. Afterwards, I finish up the remaining metal bits like the gun and the cables with a brighter silver like Ironbreaker. If you don't have these colors, that's perfectly fine. Just use whatever silver you have for painting these places. Citadel metallics are
dummy thick
and will definitely fill any of the details on the face or cables, so be sure to thin your paints down and cover these areas in 2 to 3 thin coats rather than one
dummy thick coat.
Painting purity seals is very easy to do. I like to start by painting the wax seal either corn red or a mix of corn red and Evil Sun Scarlet. Once that's done, you just need to paint the paper with some Screaming Skull, clean up the edges with Abaddon Black, and you're done. This next step took me way too long to do, but carefully, using some Runelord brass, I went ahead and covered all of the raised trim on the gun. If you make any mistakes here, which I ended up making a handful myself, remember that you can always touch up these spots with some Abaddon Black. While you have this Runelord brass on hand, you could always use it on the respirator device in front of the Ranger's mouth. The trim around the edges of the armor is the very last thing that we need to paint before we wash. Using a nice bright gold like Gehenna's Gold, we just want to go over any of the raised edges on the armor. Gehenna's Gold is quite tricky to work with, so it might require a few more layers than you're used to using. With the base colors complete, it's time to wash. Now I like to use Nuln Oil Gloss for all of the red armor because it breaks up the matte finish and adds a bit of variety. Once it dries, the gloss is subtle yet noticeable. To add a bit of warmth to the metal, I like to give it a wash in Seraphim Sepia. It's quite important to make the metal pop because 90% of the model is going to be dulled by Nuln Oil, and the bright metallics look great against the black gun and coat. We next want to finish washing this model by applying plain Nuln Oil to everything painted silver and the pants. Now to add a bit of life to this model, we next paint the lenses. You can paint these in whatever way and with whatever colors that you like, but I'll tell you what I use just in case you'd like to give it a shot. I first start with a base coat of Macragge Blue. After that's done, the next color that I use is Calidor Sky. Be sure to work closer to the center, thin your paint, and don't completely cover the Macragge Blue. This will lead to a better blend, and to finish things off, I blend to just a tiny bit of Temple Guard Blue, and it's done. At this point, you're technically done. If you'd like to add a little extra flair to this model, you could always do things like highlight the pants, edge highlight any of the black cloak or gun, add hazard stripes to the wires, add lettering to the purity seal, or dry brush the cloak to make it look worn and dirty. Now these steps aren't necessary, but they definitely bring the model to the next level. I'd love to give a massive shout out to my patrons Leandrist, Che Phillip, CK, The Dark Path, Came From The Moon, and my newest patron, $2 Sucky Sucky. Thank you all so very much for your support. You already know how much it means to me, and as you see, these videos are getting better and better each week. At least I think they are, and I couldn't have done it without you. So thank you guys so very much, and if you'd like to help support the channel, I'll drop a link to my Discord.
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
If you'd also like to help support the channel, I'll drop a link to my Patreon down low. And if you'd like to just hang out and talk about the hobby, I'll also drop a link to my Discord down low too. Now let's check out this week's viewer submissions. Okay, so this post is by Che Gavesa, and it is that challenge, the what I see versus what my mini sees. And this just looks so fun. I've never participated in one of these. Actually, lie. I did. It was like some paintbrush beard thing, but I don't have a beard anymore, so I'm definitely interested in this. Are you drinking your paint water? Because I'm not gonna lie, I've been close to doing it. Not on purpose, by accident, but it's almost happened a few times, so I totally get that. Also, just taking a look at that model, it looks very clean so far. I think that's one of the Fallout Wasteland models, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but think so. Your colors look great. It's all coming along very well. And don't drink your paint water. That's not good for you. Unless it makes you paint better. And then it's all you. Now be sure to tag me in any of your posts or use the hashtag #TheDryPaintPot because I pick my favorites each week and I feature them in my upcoming videos. Now wash your brushes, clean your paint pots, and keep on painting.